In this case, beginning in 1962, a man used a road to gain access to his property. The road was owned by the state of South Dakota Department of Transportation until 1982. At that time, DOT sold the road and the lot which it was on to a private party. In 1991, another man purchased the property upon which the road was located, and in 2001, he placed a no trespassing sign and a fence across the road, blocking the plaintiff's use of the road. The plaintiff, who had used the road since 1962, brought an action to get a prescriptive easement in October of 2001 so he could continue using the road. How would you decide this case? Can a person who has used a private road for almost 40 years acquire a prescriptive easement, even though over 20 years of the time he used the road, it was owned by the state of South Dakota? We'll be back in a moment with the answer to that question. Can a person who has used a private road for almost 40 years acquire a prescriptive easement, even though the road was owned by the Department of Transportation for more than 20 of the 40 years? No, according to the South Dakota Supreme Court in this recent case. According to the court, 20 years of adverse continuous use is required to acquire a prescriptive, or what is commonly called an adverse easement over real property in South Dakota. The man in this case had only used the road for about 19 years since the Department of Transportation had sold the property with the road on it to a private party. Normally, a person's use of a road for almost 40 years would be sufficient to acquire a prescriptive easement. However, a person could not obtain a prescriptive easement against the government. Thus, the years that the Department of Transportation owned the road did not count towards the 20 years necessary for the prescriptive easement. To establish a claim for adverse easement, a person must prove that they had an open, visible, continuous, and unmolested use of the property for over 20 years. A claim for adverse easement may not be established against the government. Remember, it's a matter of law.